Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, PMI Citizen Developer Partner Perspective. Why should project managers care about citizen development? Presented by Sam Sibley, Nate Allen, and Rich Vella. Over to you, Sam.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's really great to see so many people attending this webinar from all corners of the globe. I see a lot of familiar names in the chat. So welcome back to those, and for everyone new who hasn't engaged with us before, welcome. And thank you for taking the time to be with us today. My name's Sam Sibley, and I'm the global head of the Citizen Developer practice here at PMI. And today we're going to be discussing a really hot topic, right? And this hot topic is all around why should the project management community care about citizen developer? You'll have seen that PMI have, engaged in this space, and you're probably going to be asking questions why, right? And today we're going to be talking through that. And I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by two thought leaders in this space. Rich Weller, Senior Project Management Consultant at PCubed. PCubed are a global leading consultancy really dedicated to project, program, portfolio, and change management. And I'm also joined by the brilliant Nate Allen, who is the Vice President of Technical Solutions at TrackVia, who are one of PMI's Gold Citizen Developer partners. So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so just really laying the foundations on citizen developer. And then I'm going to spend some time with Rich, really getting into the detail of how does this all relate to the world of project management. And we're going to end with some examples from Nate around how are PMs actually leveraging and how can they leverage the citizen developer movement. And then I'll finish at the end. So without further ado, let's kick in to the first slide, please. So citizen development really is the greatest enabler of change of a generation, right? And it's a big statement. But what we're seeing is that the democratization of software development and delivery is allowing new consumers across the globe to build software, to build applications. And we can do this in a way that doesn't require a single line of code. So if we think about, this new concept of hyper agility, we're looking at things like reductions in cost savings, reduction in development times, the speed in which you can take an idea to design, build, test, and deploy really enables teams and organizations to bring products and services to market at unprecedented timeframes. And what we see is the concept of a citizen developer, which really is a new consumer group, right? It's a new consumer group of this no-code, low-code technology that exists today. But these individuals are often closest to the problem. So if we can allow citizen developers to be empowered to be able to build their own customized solutions, leveraging low-code and no-code technology, it's a game changer. And if we move on to the next slide, what we really see is this all underpinned by the world of low code and no code technology. A lot of you are going to be familiar with this, right? We hear Forrester and Gartner, many large organizations are really talking about this new movement, right? And I just want to make one thing really clear, that the concept of low code and no code technology, and a lot of you will probably be thinking, I've heard of this before. This has been around for a bit before, self-service analytics, self-serve platforms. Yes, it has. What's happened is that the sophistication of this technology, right, has really abstracted the complexity around building away from the human into the technology layer. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to actually generate powerful applications using drag and drop visual interfaces. And it's become far more accessible. So when I link this back to citizen developers, citizen developers are a new consumer group, but it allows people that traditionally wouldn't have been able to get access to solving problems fast using technology to be able to do exactly that. And that is what we're seeing as being a huge game changer. Next slide, please. But I think it's important to really look at what is the problem in front of us, right? People talk about technology. Can the technology do this? Can it do this? The technology is there. Right? There are leading technology products in the market, no code and low code application platforms that have highly sophisticated products. This is a people and a process problem. And if you think about citizen development, it's all around decentralization. It's around decentralizing decision-making and control. and allowing the frontline workers to be able to build applications. Now, everyone, you can imagine, right? That's going to require a big cultural shift and new operating models. And that's really where we come to this kind of topic around project management, is that there is so much value that can be created from this, but the world and enterprise needs to adapt the way we work to empower these new groups of stakeholders to be able to build applications. And, you know, the world of technology and the world of project management is changing. It's becoming far more technology enabled. And therefore, it's important that we, as the project management community, understand the technology in front of us and understand the right types of engagement models to be able to allow that technology to really thrive in our organizations. Next slide, please. So let's link this back into PMI. What is it we've done? We've created the world's first vendor agnostic suite of education. And this is both to support individuals across the globe, but also to allow enterprises of all sizes to be able to unlock the value of this revolution. And what it is we're really providing is the guardrails, it's the guidance, it's the best practice around, you know, how do you leverage a common standard to allow you to make the most of this movement? And this is really, really what the market has been crying out for. And if we move into the next slide, please. So for those that know me, you're going to be very bored of me using this car analogy, but a lot of people on the call, you know, well over 1,000 people on this call today probably haven't heard of this before. So what is PMI's role in this great big market? So let's go from left to right. If you look on the left, let's use an analogy of a car, right? So right now you've got fantastic technology in the market, right? You're looking at, there's, you know, around about 500 platforms, TrackVia being a fantastic platform that we work heavily with. But you've got 500 technology products. Let's link that back into the car. You've got 500 cars, right? So what happens is if any of us go and buy a car, we get given a car manual. It doesn't matter if you go and buy a Tesla or a BMW or a Mercedes, you get given a car manual. And the car manual typically teaches us the same type of thing: the features, the functions, you know, the capability of the car. What it doesn't teach us is how do I actually drive this car safely from A to B without crashing, but at the same time getting the fantastic benefits. And if you think about it, what's happened is that the car market has become far more sophisticated. Cars are faster, you have autonomous vehicles, there's far more that a car can do, which brings huge reward, but at the same time, there's more risks that have got to be managed. Very, very similar to the world of technology. And remember, linking this back into the no-code, low-code market, these platforms have become so powerful that the benefits are significant, but you need to use them and manage them in the right way. So if you think about the world, unlocking the value of the car market, what's happened traditionally is that you've had these new consumer groups of drivers, right? The citizen developers. And drivers will get access to their car, they get given the car manual, they turn up in London at a roundabout and they go the wrong way. They have no understanding about the general principles behind driving, right? The highway code, the speed limits. So there's just no consistency, there's no standards. And what happens is it doesn't matter how good the cars are, everyone's crashing. And the biggest challenge we have in the market today is we do not want to create a world of shadow IT and spaghetti code. We hear about this all the time. We do not want shadow IT in our organizations. And every executive is going to be looking at shadow IT as a significant risk to the business. And our job collectively is to say, how do we put the right controls and standards in place that mitigate that risk? So in the middle, we've got the driver. As I mentioned before, you've got these new consumer groups of technology, the citizen developer. The citizen developer is a new driver, okay? Business people with no technical experience can now drive cars. It's fantastic, but you need that safety and that theory. Because if you can combine the safety and the theory test with the car manual, it massively mitigates risk. And it means less drivers around the world are going to be crashing. So the role that PMI is playing in this market is very, very simple. We are providing the safety and the theory manual, the guiding principles behind the highway code and how you can drive the 500 cars in the market safely. And I think it's really, really important to look at this last statement. We talk about citizen developer being a fantastic movement, huge market, billions and billions of dollars are going to be spent on enterprises. You know, nearly 50% of enterprises around the world are already looking or trying to adopt this. But the world can't and won't drive this momentum to its full potential if crashes are commonplace. And this is what we need to address. And this is the role that PMI is playing in this market. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because a lot of this you're going to be able to find on pmi.org, but we've created the first vendor agnostic education suite to provide those standards. We started with a citizen developer handbook, which really introduces the world to the world of citizen development, right? And it introduces to the PMI canvas, which is all around, as you can see on the right, a 5-stage maturity model. And it takes people through a journey. Where do I start? And what does the promised land look like? And how do I do it in a really, really well-governed way? So the book introduces that concept, and that's available and has been for quite some time. The foundation course is been available for quite a while, and it really gives you that introduction into the best practice of the citizen development methodologies and frameworks, right? So a really, really good place to start. If you're intrigued, want to find out more, why is this important? You know, that really goes into a bit more detail. I'm just laying the foundations here. Practitioner course is great for people that can start building, you know, so everyone on this call, right? As the project management community, both in terms of IT project management, but also line of business, you can be practitioners, but you also can manage practitioners. There will be people in your teams, in your project teams, who will be either building in no-code, low-code technology, or should be building in low-code, no-code technology. So we have a responsibility there. And the last one, which is really, really relevant, is all around the business architect persona. So if you look on the right, with the infographic, the business architect persona is really around the manage and lead part of that PMI canvas, right? So that's where we talk about things like the operating model, you know, the organizational alignment. What does the culture actually need to look like for this to actually flourish? You know, how does the IT and the business functions come together to manage that risk? These are really, really important topics that have to be addressed, and we address that in our training. So that gives you a high level picture on the PMI education suite. Next slide, please. So, you know, these are three pretty important topics here. So the first one is that we need to be adaptable, right? It's really, really important that we need to be able to adapt to fast changing worlds. You know, everyone always talks about what we've been going through over the last couple of years with the pandemic, but what it's given us is there are always compelling events that are driving us to be adaptable. Businesses that are adaptable are thriving. Those that are not adaptable are really, really struggling. And citizen developer, see it as a catalyst. It's a catalyst to be adaptable, right? Remember that decentralization, empowering the front line to be able to adapt, build products, services, pivot, build MVPs faster. You know, if you can build an MVP in hours rather than typically taking 6 to 9 months to stand something up, imagine the adaptability it gives you as an organization, even for small startups, right up to big enterprise. Be resilient. Resilience is such a common theme right now, right? We need to be resilient, and being resilient means, you know, an example, I'm a retailer, and I'm a retailer who traditionally have had stores on the high street, right? And I need to move to an online world. Am I able to have the operating model in my business that allows me to make that pivot to an online world? And can I stay resilient in a very, very competitive time? Resilience. And again, now you can tie this back. Leveraging no-code and low-code platforms can help drive that resiliency. And the last is be relevant. Our consumers and our customers are changing by the day. So being able to be relevant in a market, understand what the customers want, how they're changing, the trends, it's important. And again, think of the world of hyper agility compared to where we were, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? Before, you'd have a line of business saying, I want to build a new product because I've got this demand from my stakeholders in a certain region. The process of going to actually build a solution could take a year. By that point, it's not relevant anymore. So this hyper agile world is really changing the way that we can actually think about imagining, right, what is possible in our organizations, and how do we actually empower wider stakeholders in a business to leverage citizen development to stay relevant. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's my quick intro into, you know, citizen development, what it is, why is PMI playing in this space? Because this is an important business for us, right? To allow our project management communities and change makers around the world to be able to actually feel empowered by this new movement rather than scared and concerned about it. This is a huge, huge opportunity for us all on this call, okay? And with that, I'm delighted that Rich is joining us because Rich really is an expert in your world, right? I gave a quick intro into the organization. But Rich, perhaps you can just take a quick minute to give a quick intro, and then we can dive into some of the questions.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. Sam, can you hear me okay?
We can, yeah.
Awesome. And first, I'd like to say thanks for the opportunity to share my knowledge and experience with the many of my colleagues from the project management community. So a little bit about myself. I've actually been in the project management profession for nearly 30 years. I acquired the PMP certification way back in 2002 before it was hot, and I'm currently a PMI certified trainer of the current PMP exam. And here's what I am not. I am not a developer. I am not a coder. I'm wired up to be a project manager from inside. The best code I could write is to basically record a macro in Excel. So that's who I am. I work for the world's largest consulting organization that focuses exclusively on project management, and I see myself being a transformation agent, helping organizations uncover new ways of working that return value to the organization, just as you described, Sam, in a more faster, in a more economical way. And this could be done through implementing enterprise applications or agile transformation, or even digital transformation. And then probably the last carrot that I'll throw in here is I have actually completed all 3 of the courses that you tossed up on a previous slide. So I think I'm well equipped to handle any questions you throw at me, my friend.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Let's get straight into it. So the first one is, Rich, we've been speaking for a little while, and you're obviously enthusiastic about PMI stepping into this citizen developer arena. Why are you so excited?
That's a great question. And to be quite honest, the light bulb turned on for me. A switch flipped in my head about 3 years ago. And that happened as I was leaving my office for work and heading home. Now I know exactly where I live, but my phone actually knows a better way. And you all can agree with me, your phone knows a better, faster way to your house than you do because of all the traffic, all the other things that you can't see out in front of you, but the technology can see that. And again, that's what flipped the switch. And I said, wait, our project management profession, it's not immune to this digital disruption that's impacting other organizations all around us. And from here, that's where I began working with other thought leaders inside of my organization. And we came up with what we call in my organization the intelligent automation approach and the intelligent automation complexity model. Now, again, keep in mind, we're going back 3 years. And this approach is a very lightweight process and a complexity model that provides options for using the best technology. And it ranges from, formulas and macros in Excel on the simple side of things to more AI-driven technology on the complex side of things. And we began applying this approach and this model to not only our internal projects in our organizations, but also with our various other clients, the client organizations that we work with to help them get better. And what we uncovered is that we were able to quickly provide value by leveraging these applications that would fall into that term that you referenced earlier, what would fall into what is called that low code, no code category. So that's a little bit of the background going back like 3 years. So when PMI first introduced the citizen development offering, I don't know if you can check the records, but I'm probably one of the first people that hopped in there and acquired that book, the citizen development, the book called Citizen Development, the Handbook for Creators and Change Makers. I'm probably one of the first people that jumped on that. And to be quite honest, I was elated at the level of organization that's inside of that book, the thought leadership that's inside of there, and the guidance that book provides. And I was probably one of the first few people to sign up for your Citizen Developer Foundations course. And the concepts in that course, and this is where I'm trying to connect the dots, the concepts inside that course align almost directly with the trajectory that we were heading with the approach that we had developed internally. But let me speak for just a moment with my project manager hat on. I found even greater value in the citizen developer practitioner course. And what I love about that is the fact that it actually provided a defined definitive process, as well as gave me tools, or gave us tools and templates to help us actually plan and then manage those projects that would fall or be tagged as citizen development type projects. And that's what I really like best about that offering. And then finally, speaking from the perspective of being a project management consultant, and in other words, that transformation agent, there's great value in that citizen developer business architect course. There's a maturity model in there, there's an assessment inside of there, and guidance within the course that provides basically a great model for leveraging citizen development to fuel digital transformation inside of any organization. And I think that's finally, I guess I just kind of sum it up. That's why I'm so excited and have been so excited. And in our organization, our focus is to leverage two things. Get this, two things. Focus on leveraging technology to improve processes and or to improve decision making. That, guys, is why I'm so excited and geeked about this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's a really nice way to tie it back to those two areas. And look, so I think, Rich, we see in the market huge stats about citizen development and the opportunities that it presents the world. But how do you think citizen development will change the future of project management specifically?
Great question. But Sam, truth be told, citizen development is changing the project management profession as we speak. Just like Agile, really disrupted our profession beginning a number of years ago, I see citizen development impacting our project management profession in three different ways. So 3 different ways I'll give you here. The first one is actually the role of the project manager. And I sincerely believe that the project manager actually is that next great citizen developer. As a matter of fact, Roger Moffat of TrackVia and I actually wrote an article entitled just that, Project Manager, the Next Great Citizen Developer. So Google that, you might find some good insight there. And why do I say that? It's because I believe that my peers in the project management community can leverage these low code, no code tools to improve our project management solutions. And to be quite honest, this is where I started. And after realizing that, hey, my phone knew a better way home than I did, I then asked, well, what else? What else could I improve through technology? And then I went away and started building some different solutions. In other words, like automatically texting my wife when I leave work. And now, hang on, I know you're laughing, but really, it's similar to how people say Agile is a mindset. Well, what I say is you have to think digital. You have to start thinking in this vein. How can we leverage technology to transform, our profession? And I went away and, as a non-coder, as a non-developer, developed a number of solutions, with the low code, no code technology. Even as far as being able to talk to like Google Home and have it ask me PMP exam prep questions. So that's number one. Is the first off, it is impacting the role of the project manager. The second is from like you mentioned, or the second from my perspective is a process and tool perspective. As I mentioned earlier, that citizen developer practitioner course, it provides a great process and many templates that a project manager can pick up and leverage to ensure that their project is a good fit for citizen development. And then it guides them, if so, it then guides them through that planning and management of the project. And finally, it keeps that process or that methodology, it's designed to keep our IT departments in the loop every step of the way in order to avoid creating that shadow IT, Sam, that you mentioned earlier. And then the third thing here in this area is the third way citizen development is going to change the future of project management is the team members that we work with. the team members that we work with. In the past, we've leveraged our resources from our IT department as team members to help us develop those the technical solutions that are needed. But based upon the rise of this low code, no code solutions, and the fact that, as you mentioned, Sam, statistics coming from Gartner and all of that, we need more help. We need more team members, and this is where having people with the capability to work with these different type of tools. This is where we will find those resources needed to complete those, to fill that gap that's out there. So again, a citizen developer. Remember, a citizen developer is a business professional who creates customized apps using low code, no code tools to solve business challenges. I think I stole that quote from you guys, Sam.
No, that's awesome. And I think you landed on an important point around the shadow IT and the relationship with IT. So let me just, I just want to touch on that briefly, because I think there is still some nervousness and there's a lack of clarity around the citizen development movement and how is that then going to impact the role and function that IT will play. Let's be really clear. This is not about replacing the requirement for very, very talented developers. Okay, this is not going to replace talented developers. This is, in the world of enterprise right now, where we're trying to be adaptable, resilient, we're trying to be relevant. There is more demand for applications now than ever before, right? I think something like 500 million apps are going to be built this year, whatever it's going to be, right? It's a crazy number. There is a massive shortage of development and talented development resources around the world, right? A massive shortage. You're looking at it's millions and millions and millions, right? The deficit. So we've got to do something different, right? This is the fundamental thing in front of us here. We have to do something different. So with citizen development, if you think about it, there's more demand to build applications. IT are constantly being squeezed. Never enough resource, IT doing everything they can to keep the lights on, to keep the business moving forward, right? But at the same time, what happens is the world of a IT backlog just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because it's not seen as being a core operating model environment. It's not seen as being something that is required to keep the lights on. So if you think about that world, right, where you've got IT, you've got these very, very smart developers in a business, which are always going to be there to really continue to create the high value applications, highly complex, high levels of risk involved, right? I mentioned the core operating model systems, for example. IT can do that. But rather than just leaving a great big growing backlog to one side that never gets touched, and often, by the way, guys, that backlog is the differentiator. Often but they are the apps that are going to actually give you competitive advantage, right? So what this allows you to do is it allows the IT to say, okay, I've got a new group of willing stakeholders in the business that want to be able to create these apps. But instead, what IT need to really focus on is, how do I put the right guardrails, the right governance structures, the right security, the right data, the right permissions in place, okay, that allow IT to feel comfortable to outsource that development. And this is where it comes down to a joint venture. It's a joint venture between the business of willing citizen developers, frontline, wanting to build cool stuff, but IT feeling comfortable that this can be a part of an enterprise architecture, right? And that is the world right now. It is a joint venture between two consumer groups. And when I speak to IT professionals, when I speak to the CIO community, and those that really get this, they see it as such a phenomenal opportunity for change, right? Going back to my point, the biggest enabler of change of a generation. It is a big change for IT, but they can leverage this new group of the business. And I think that ties back into your point, Rich, but I wanted to be really clear to the audience on here. I'm sure there's going to be some questions around this and some uncertainty. Hopefully that makes it clear. So that ties me into my next question. So there still is some degree of skepticism within the project management community to adopt citizen development. Why do you think that is, Rich?
Well, Sam, to be quite honest, personally, I don't have the insight into the fact that there's skepticism. I'm not sure about that. From my perspective, however, I believe there's a few gaps that we still need to be closed, and we're working on one of them today. And that first one is simply the awareness for project managers on what citizen development really is. I'll be honest, when I first heard about PMI Citizen Development Program, I was under the impression that it was a program to make me, as a project manager, a citizen developer. And you heard earlier that I said, hey, this is a good opportunity for us to do that. But I don't think that's the greatest. No, I'll say it straight out. That's not the greatest value of this program. The greatest value of this program is actually providing us the process and the tools to help us better manage, to help us decide whether a project can be managed as a citizen developer type project, or if it needs to be, we need to continue working with those hardcore developers that you mentioned there a moment ago within IT, Sam. And so that brings me to the second gap that needs to be closed, is the fact that PMI's Citizen Developer course, as I mentioned earlier, provides those processes and those tools for successfully, managing the citizen developer type project. And then finally, the third point is our PMOs and business leaders. They need to be aware of that third course that you mentioned earlier, the Citizen Developer Business Architect course. And I'm telling you, that provides a great foundation, again, from my experience and background of being that transformation agent, helping organizations, be more efficient and more cost effective. There was some great content in there that provides a great, as it provides a foundation for an organization to fuel that digital transformation. So that's my thoughts on that one, Sam.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks, Rich. So a couple of last questions. So if there was one piece of advice that you would give to a project manager regarding citizen development, what would it be?
Straight up, it's pretty simple. Become more aware of citizen development. I mean, you can go Google the topic for sure, but what I really recommend is to add their acronym PMI on the front of your Google search, because going to any other source or any other sites really only going to give you the surface level information on the topic. The other thing I'd recommend is if you are a PMI member, you can download a free PDF copy of that book that I mentioned earlier, Citizen Development, the Handbook for Creators and Change Makers, and do a little reading. You'll see how much, just like I said earlier, you'll see how much thought leadership has gone into this topic. And listen, I know it sounds as if I work for PMI. I really don't, but I'm calling it as I see it with my experience and background. But my third recommendation is to sign up, and I'm going to recommend that Citizen Developer Practitioner course, because, as mentioned a number of times, it's the one that provides the process that I've mentioned many times and gives you access to the tools or templates that can assist you in your project manager role. The next one that I'm going to suggest is invest some time learning into how to work with one or some of these no-code solutions. Man, I've been seeing the names come across. The people who are chatting out different types of technology that falls into this space. Spend some time. Play with one of those tools or multiple of those tools, so that you get to understand how these solutions work. And with this knowledge, like, you too can become a citizen developer and leverage then leverage that knowledge to help us improve our project management solutions. And so I'm somewhat savvy with the suite of some. I have become somewhat savvy with the suite of some of the low code applications, and I actually had a person join my team a while back, and I'll never forget one of the things that she first said to me when we very first met, probably her third sentence. She said, I'm not technical, but here's what's interesting. She became a part of my team, and we had an opportunity to make something better, to improve in our organization. And she became my citizen developer. And within a month, we were able to create a solution to improve our internal training request process. And it moved from a very manual, error-prone process, which basically end to end in that process, it took days. It took days for us to complete that process, and maybe hours worth of combined effort. But this new solution only now takes minutes of effort, and due to the automation, minutes from end to end. And it also removed that opportunity for error. And so this is an example. You can hear me telling the story how she kind of followed this same approach, and she is now, one of my citizen developers in my camp.
That's a great example, and it's always nice to actually hear real life examples like that. And actually, I'm gonna call him out. I think Michael McCullough's on here from Amtrak, but I had a really cool conversation. Mike, I'm gonna call you out. But really, really interesting about how does a large organization take a topic where there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of people trying to put things in place that are going to prevent it from really taking off, but really, really empowering people that traditionally would have never thought they were going to be creators of technology, right? Actually empowering those people, like your example, Rich. I had this great chat with Michael about how Amtrak are actually adopting this, and he's a great, if you want to have a chat about this as well, I'm sure Michael will be willing to talk to you. But that's a real life example as to how an organization have allowed totally new consumer groups outside of IT to build really, really cool applications to change not just the way they work, but the way the business operates in the market, right? To change the world and how we engage around it. So, Michael, quick shout out for you there. Hopefully you didn't mind that. So look, okay, last question, and then we're going to move on to Nate. So, Rich, you've been working with PMI for a long time. PMP, you've invested a lot of time within the PMI community over the last years, which is fantastic. But in your opinion, let's tie this back into the wider PMI products, right? How do you see Citizen Developer fitting in with the other products in the PMI portfolio?
So that's a good question, Sam. I can't touch on all of the PMI offerings, but let me hit on a few of them, and let me go in this direction. Let me explain how the various citizen development courses actually complement the other PMI products. I think that's probably the easiest way for me to try to answer your question here. So let's start with that Citizen Developer Foundation. So with that course, regardless of which certification you currently hold, or even the role that you play within your project management organization, or if you don't hold any other certification at all, this course provides value. What it does, it helps establish that understanding of, well, what exactly, what is citizen development, and why is there a need to learn how to manage these types of projects. And it also provides that overview of that citizen development canvas that you flashed up earlier, Sam. So that's to me is the Citizen Developer Foundation. Let me move now to that Citizen Developer Practitioner course. And so here I'm speaking to, if you hold the CAPM or even the PMP certification, this course is going to provide you great value. It offers a definitive approach or process, and even provides those templates to help you or assist you in planning and managing a citizen developer project. And then finally, that third course, the Citizen Developer Business Architect. Again, regardless of the PMI certification that you currently hold, I see this course as being very valuable to anyone working within a PMO. It provides advice for scaling the citizen development offering. It offers a really cool, a great maturity model, and provides guidance for setting up groups or communities of practice to help drive this thinking and drive this knowledge across the organization. And then finally, it provides a great model, as I mentioned a number of times, to leverage citizen development as that driver to help drive digital transformation within an organization.
Fantastic. Hey, Rich, I really appreciate you joining us. I think you've given some fantastic insight, and I think a lot of the audience on here are going to have found that extremely relevant. So thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just one quick call out. I put my contact information on projectmanagement.com. I put a link there if you want to connect with me. You got my contact information. And thanks, Sam.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. Okay, so we're now going to move on to the brilliant Nate Allen, Vice President of Technical Solutions at TrackVia, who I had the privilege of meeting recently in snowy Denver, Colorado. Hey, Nate, how you doing?
Hey, Sam, doing great. I think the weather where you're at right now is probably a little bit better than when you visited, but yeah. Good to be speaking with you.
Absolutely. So Nate, what I'm going to do, maybe if I pass to you for a quick intro into your role, and then guys, for everyone on the call, Nate's gonna provide some real life examples of how project managers can actually use citizen developers. So we're going to spend the next kind of 15-20 minutes really talking around that. So Nate, I'll hand the floor to you.
Perfect, thanks. So if we want to just kind of jump right in to the first slide here, and Sam, I really appreciate the invitation. Rich, it's great to be following on here and talking about some real life examples. So I work with TrackVia, and today I'm going to share with you how one of our customers, Lynx, implemented low-code technology to improve their project delivery execution. So hopefully this is going to shed some light on what this looks like in practice. You're going to see some visuals of what they've created, and hopefully it pulls some of the things that we've been talking about together. I'm going to open up with just a little bit of background context for both Lynx and TrackVia to set the stage here. And then we'll talk about the challenges that Lynx was facing and why they decided that a low-code toolset was the right way to address those challenges. We'll discuss Lynx's process of implementing TrackVia. So you're gonna see what some of those interfaces look like. We're gonna examine some of the results that they've started to achieve in the real world. And then we'll wrap up with some aha moments that you may wanna consider as you explore the topic of citizen development on your own. So let's dive right in. I'll introduce you to Lynx really quickly. So on the next slide, if you could, Lynx is a leading technology integrator. So what does that mean? They work primarily in the construction and engineering industry on projects of various sizes. But if you can imagine the networking in a new data center, the incredible audio visual that you would see in a stadium where your favorite team plays, or maybe the security and access control at a large hospital, then you're on the right track. Those are the kinds of projects that are Lynx's bread and butter, and they're the best in the industry whenever it comes to this. And Damon is a member of the team at Lynx. He's the main character in our story today. And in fact, I saw Damon join earlier today, and I've seen him chime in on the chat a couple of times. So Damon, thank you for your help on this. Couldn't have done it without you. At Lynx, Damon is the business systems manager, and I was teasing him recently that's like the most understated title I've ever heard. It's a little bit like saying James Bond is a part of the dispute resolution department, in my opinion. Damon is incredibly talented. He's worked in just about every role in this industry, including as a project manager on large-scale construction projects. And while he certainly knows his way around technology, he's not a software developer in the traditional sense. He is, however, a citizen developer, and we'll talk about his experience of becoming a citizen developer as we move through this. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll give you just a kind of a brief overview of TrackVia. So again, TrackVia is the organization that I work with. According to Sam, we probably manufacture citizen development sports cars. That's who we are. We provide a toolkit for people to build their own applications. And we've been doing this for a long time. We were a pioneer in the modern low-code marketplace, and we've been focused exclusively on empowering citizen developers like Damon. We're fortunate to have customers in just about every industry, building applications to solve problems that I didn't even know existed. And that's one of the things that keeps this job really fresh and interesting for me, is I get to learn about new things all the time as I talk to our customers. So that's really fantastic. TrackVia was the first PMI Gold technology partner, and we've been super impressed. I mean, we've been doing this for a long time, and within the last little bit more than a year as we've been working with PMI. We've just been super impressed with what they've been bringing into the market. Sam and Claire and the team have been an absolute joy to work with. So we couldn't be more excited about the best practices and the thought frameworks that PMI is bringing to the citizen development landscape. And then just off on the right, that's me kind of hamming it up for like our vacation brag Slack channel here internally. I've been with TrackVia for quite a while now, and I actually started off as a customer of TrackVia's before joining the team. And so I love talking about this citizen development journey because on a certain level, that's my personal journey as well. I went through this, and I was actually lucky enough to work with Damon during Lynx's evaluation. And so this is a particularly fun story for me to tell. Let's get into that story on the next slide if we could. So like most good software purchasing stories, this one started off with the idea that a new ERP system would be the silver bullet. It would fix everything. And I think as Lynx was going down that evaluation path, they started talking to software vendors, really digging into their own needs really deeply. What they realized is that a lot of the core functions that you would get out of an ERP solution, they already had in place, and they were quite happy with them. Things like accounting and finance, HRM, sales, etc. But there was this opportunity that they had in an area that they referred to as project delivery, and I think what most of us would call project management here, specifically on how they execute on these large-scale construction projects. And it's not like Lynx was a novice, that they were novices in this space. In fact, quite the opposite. They had a very clear idea of the data that was important for them to be tracking, the processes that they needed to control during these projects, and the visibility that they wanted into individual projects and across their entire portfolio. And so they moved on from an ERP-focused evaluation and started surveying some of the best purpose-built solutions for project management in the construction industry. And I think what they quickly realized is that nothing was really a great fit for what they wanted to achieve, the unique nature of their business. Sam talked about the fact that a lot of times that backlog and these applications represent the competitive advantage in your organizations. And they wanted something that would help bring to life that competitive advantage around how they did project delivery. And really, I think, a lot of that relates to the granular level of insights that they wanted to be working with and then using to drive better project management. So even if they had purchased something off the shelf that was purpose built for this in the industry, it's probably likely that somewhere along the way they'd still need to fill in some gaps, maybe using some spreadsheets. And just to kind of like bring this home, right? What does that really mean? So as an example, like if you can imagine a large commercial office space, right? Those are the kinds of projects that Lynx would be involved in. And a single display unit that goes into that office space, or maybe just the Ethernet port right there beside your desk. That single item could include for Lynx up to 7 individual tasks that were being completed at different times across different phases of that project and by different people. And Lynx needed to be able to capture, what that task was, when it was due, where it was located in the job site, who needed to do it, and how long was it going to take. So they needed really rich data at that individual task level, 7 tasks per item. And you can imagine thousands of items, right? In a large office building, you're going to have thousands of Ethernet ports, maybe tens of thousands of Ethernet ports. And so this really, and that granularity of data informed the top level KPIs that they used to understand whether or not they were performing on the projects for their customers. And so here on screen, actually kind of off to the right, you can see an example of some of the spreadsheets that Damon shared with us early on as we were having these discussions and how they were previously managing some of their project delivery. And this is just 2 excerpts from a workbook that I think, if I recall, had like 15 tabs in it. And every single project would have one of these workbooks, maybe even multiple versions of the same file. And I think a lot of us can relate to this world. In fact, I lived in this world for a long time, so I know exactly what that's like. And So this was the problem that Lynx was trying to solve. And I think, in Lynx's wisdom, they recognized pretty early on that if they could find a way, a tool that would allow them to solve this problem on their own, it's likely that that same tool would help them solve other problems in addition. And so they were kind of thinking ahead a little bit in that regard. So if we can move to the next slide, how did Lynx get from that initial needs assessment, recognizing that a low code toolkit may be the right solution to them, to actually implementing that solution and then having some real results, some purpose-built capabilities for their project delivery opportunities. So thankfully, we started talking with Damon at Lynx. He was fantastic. He and I got hooked up pretty early on, and Damon started with basically a trial with us for a couple of weeks. Damon and I worked together. I helped him get started with kind of a narrowly scoped proof of concept, just to make sure that this really was, a conversation worth having, that this was what they were looking for and it was going to fit their needs. And then I turned the keys over to Damon. And this is one of the things that I think makes Damon so great. He is not afraid to just dig right in himself. So he got in there. We would, trade emails a couple times a day, a couple times a week. We talk on the phone and do screen shares. And Damon was able to, on his own, do an evaluation of the platform, build out some of the initial capabilities, start small, right? Build out those initial capabilities and help decide that a low code platform was the right choice for Lynx, and got, really good executive sponsorship, which I think was an important part of this also, because it starts to address some of the, I think, concerns that people have around shadow IT. This was definitely not something that was done in the shadows. And so Damon moved quickly from an evaluation kind of stance into implementation mode. He took advantage of a lot of the various training options that we offer. This would be that, as Sam made reference to, like the handbook for the car. This is the handbook for TrackVia. He took several of our instructor-led courses, some of the on-demand, self-paced material as well. And while he was learning the ins and outs of TrackVia, at the same time, he was having conversations with the internal stakeholders at Lynx who would be impacted here, the people who would actually be using this solution that Lynx was going to build. And so that they could, have input. And I think a lot of people on this call would recognize that new technology is frequently an opportunity to kind of think about the processes that are in place already. And so Lynx did that and made some decisions about where they could improve processes. This was a solution that was going to be used across multiple business divisions. And so there were also opportunities to standardize what some of the different divisions were doing a little bit differently also. Within several months, so Damon was taking some educational material. He was having conversations internally, and at the same time, he was actually putting his hands on the keyboard and doing development within TrackVia. And within several months, he had initial capabilities that they could roll out into the field that people could start using around that core project delivery use case. It included some integrations into the core systems that they use internally, and a kind of a handful of initial adjacent use cases as well. And while 4 months doesn't have that sexy ring, like you can build apps in 4 hours. There are certainly things you can do in a matter of hours. It's very quick. But what Lynx and Damon were trying to do after they started small in that evaluation process was to try to scale very quickly. And it's a complex problem that they were solving for. And so to get this out there this quickly was a big accomplishment, considering what they were trying to do, all the internal deliberations that they were having, and the fact that Damon was learning an entirely new toolkit at this time. And so off on the right, you can see a couple of examples that I pulled out of Lynx's account. It's going to give you kind of a flavor for some of the design interfaces in TrackVia. So, how is it that we can build complex applications without writing any code? And so you see how TrackVia does that, our take on it. Here, kind of in the middle of the screen, I know some of this is hard to see. It's not exactly the details that really matter, but you see what we would call a form builder there in the middle of the screen, with elements on the left-hand side, a working space in the middle, and you can drag and drop items onto that form that help you build an end user interface. And then there's ways to set up the logic and rules and permissions associated with that right there on screen. In the middle, kind of hidden back there, you see some visual workflow designers that we have. Again, that's one that Lynx is using to record data in the field about what each person is doing relative to those tasks. And then finally, they're kind of plastered up in the back, you see the data structure that informs this application. Again, all of that's hosted and it's built within TrackVia. And so that's something that we would refer to as an entity relationship diagram. And it gives you a visual understanding of all the various tables and data elements and how they relate to each other within their application. Even integrations can be built using a drag and drop kind of interface. And you see some of the integrations into some of the core systems that Lynx has built today. So that's the journey that Lynx went on to get started, right? Just digging in, getting educated, talking very intentionally about what they wanted to build, and then actually building it out. And we've got some resources here internally that Damon was able to use to help speed that up. But at this point, I mean, Damon, he's a monster. He's off building stuff on his own all the time, and he can do it all on his own. And so, what does this look like in the field? What are they actually using today? If we can jump to the next slide. So Lynx has a full-blown project delivery application that helps them, I think, actively manage right now 130 projects. These projects vary in size and complexity, from relatively small to projects that have over 50,000 man hours individually on them, thousands of items, tens of thousands of tasks that are being tracked at a really granular level. The daily users are people like their operations managers, site managers, site lead technicians, administrative and coordinating staff, and of course their project managers that are assigned to each one of the projects. Those folks who are the daily users in there. And you can kind of see a couple of examples off on the right here of some of the screenshots, dashboards from their project delivery application. So this would include dashboards and experiences that are built specifically for each of those roles. Like an operations manager may see aggregate KPIs that represent the progress on each of the projects that they're responsible for, while a site lead technician, whenever he logs in, either maybe from his laptop or from his phone, he's going to see information about that individual project that he's assigned to and what's due on the job site that he's physically present at today, if there's anything that's overdue, any priority tasks. And so each role has their own custom experience that helps them do their job more effectively, gives them the right information at the right time. And you'll notice here that Lynx is taking advantage of both our workstation experience as well as built-in mobile capabilities. And that's really important for collecting that granular level information in the field. That field level data feeds a lot of automations. For example, a pacing automation that gives them kind of an early warning system whenever things are behind pace. You can see some of that red light, green light going on there. And in addition to project delivery, Lynx has built out over a dozen additional applications, everything from kind of professional certification management when people's licenses are expiring, to site access badging. And one really interesting story that Damon shared with me of, this is like the sexy 4-hour app build, is they had some changing requirements in COVID that their customers enforced around who could actually go on job sites, right? At a hospital, maybe you do need to be vaccinated to go on a job site. And Lynx was able to take that site access badging data that they were already collecting, create and marry that up with some limited employee information to very quickly control that site access, who could go on site, and marry that up with the requirements that their customers had in case that they need to be able to demonstrate that back to their customers. So just being really flexible was a huge benefit there. So let's move on to our last slide. I'm conscious of time here. I know we've got just a couple of minutes. I asked Damon to share some aha moments with us, little words of wisdom. He didn't let me down. First of all, he said, try it out for yourself. And I think we've heard that a couple of times. PMI's material is great. I would definitely agree with Rich there. Dig into the PMI material. The foundations course is a great just kind of opener there. And then most of these platforms today, TrackVia included, have a way to trial it for free. In fact, for TrackVia, you can go sign up for a trial, try it out completely on your own. We do have experts on the team who can give you a helping hand if you kind of want that same experience that Damon and I had together. Next, keep in mind that these are toolkits that can help you solve lots of different problems. I think naturally most people have like a singular problem that they're trying to solve early on, and you should do your due diligence, make sure that it's a good fit to solve that problem. But keep in mind that it's likely that you're gonna want to use this to solve other problems, and that's another way that PMI's thinking can help you understand what this may look like organizationally at scale. And lastly, I think this is a great place to wrap up. Damon shared this kind of insight with me where he said, for us, usually building apps is faster than deciding what we're going to build. And I think that's really, I hear that a lot from customers, that actually putting your hands on the keyboard can sometimes be the easiest part of this. It's the way that we communicate. It's the way that we collaborate organizationally. And I think, for the folks on the line here, there's two takeaways. That low code itself, the DNA of it is almost like purpose built to help you build things quickly and collaborate. It can speed up that requirements definition process. And then PMI's material that we've been talking about gives you a ton of tools. And you see just a couple of examples of those here. Some best practices tools. Yeah, Sam.
Nate, I'm gonna have to. So I'm just gonna have to jump in because we've got to the end, and I need to just wrap up with the host as well. So if that's all right,
perfect.
Wrap up. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Nate. I think
that's perfect. Thank you.
All the comments coming in were that it was spot on and very informative. So guys, look, a couple of next steps. If you want to learn more about the citizen developer movement and the role PMI is playing, you can see the domain on the screen now, pmi.org/citizen developer. We are also offering a 30% discount code of all PMI citizen developer courses that are available in the market today. So please use that discount code. And if you want to learn more about TrackVia, and also obviously you can connect with Rich and find out more about PQ, then there's the information. Guys, it just leaves me to say, thank you so much for taking the time. This is the first of a number of events we're going to be running about why for project managers. So stay tuned, but I'll pass back to the host to close off. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for participation in today's webinar, and thank you to Sam, Nate, and Rich for presenting today. As a reminder, the recording and a presentation will be available on projectmanagement.com within 7 to 10 business days. We hope to see you all next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.